What would you do if one of Hollywood's biggest legends just walked into your nursing home unannounced? Picture this: a rainy afternoon, residents half asleep in their recliners, the soft hum of old westerns playing in the background, when suddenly Clint Eastwood, yes, the Clint Eastwood, steps through the door like he's walking into a scene from Gran Torino. But he wasn't there for a film shoot. He wasn't there for publicity. He was there for one woman. And what happened next had nurses crying, war veterans tearing up, and an entire nation buzzing. So who was this woman? Why did Eastwood show up without warning? And what could possibly make Dirty Harry himself shed his tough guy image for a tear-filled afternoon? Stick around, because this story will remind you that kindness doesn't need a camera. Let's rewind just a little. Carmel by the Sea, California, tucked along the coast, is the kind of sleepy town where time moves a little slower, especially at the Willow Creek retirement home. And inside room 104, Edith Monroe, 91 years old, was staring out the rain-streaked window. She wasn't watching TV. She wasn't napping. She was holding a worn copy of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly screenplay, clutched to her chest like it was a diary. Now, Edith's no ordinary woman. She was a nurse during World War II, raised 3 kids, buried 2 husbands, and through it all, one face kept her company on the silver screen: Clint Eastwood. Tomorrow, she'd turn 92. But tonight, her only birthday wish? I just want to meet Clint Eastwood, just once, before I go, she whispered to a nurse, smiling softly. The nurse, touched by the moment, pulled out her phone. No big plan, just a tweet. This is Edith. She's turning 92 tomorrow. She survived the war, raised a family, loves Clint Eastwood, says meeting him would be the greatest gift of all. Make a wish. Har Clint Eastwood. No one expected anything to happen. I mean, celebrities get tagged in stuff like that all the time, right? But somewhere, just a few miles away, Clint Eastwood was scrolling. And he paused. Now Clint Eastwood isn't the type to make a big fuss. No entourage, no press, no announcements. The next morning, he slipped into a flannel shirt, jeans, and a weathered cowboy hat. Not unlike something you'd see in High Plains Drifter. He grabbed his truck keys and told his assistant, "Hold my calls. I've got someone to visit." That's it. No camera crew, no PR, just Clint, driving himself through the rain toward a nursing home most people had never heard of. When he walked into Willow Creek, it was like a scene out of a movie. Staff at the front desk blinked. Security thought it was a prank. "Can I help you?" the guard asked, squinting like he couldn't believe his eyes. "I'm here to see Edith," Eastwood said, calm, steady, just like in the movies. They thought someone was filming a reality show. But word started spreading fast. "Is that? No way. That's him. That's Clint Eastwood." Down the hallway, Edith was being wheeled out of her room, confused, frail, still in her morning sweater. She had no idea what was coming. Then Clint stepped around the corner. No music, no script, just silence. He took off his hat, got down on one knee beside her wheelchair, and with a half smile, said the line that would melt every heart in that building. "Heard you were looking for me?" The moment those words left Clint's mouth, everything else seemed to freeze. Edith's eyes widened, then welled up with tears. Her hands trembled, reaching for his face like she was seeing a ghost from her youth. "It's really you," she whispered. Clint chuckled softly. "Last time I checked," he said. And then, get this, he didn't just shake her hand or pose for a photo. He pulled out a folded, yellowed paperback novel from his coat. It was Lonesome Dove, her favorite. He sat beside her, opened the first page, and began to read. Can you imagine that? The same man who once growled, "Go ahead, make my day," now gently reading Western prose to a 92-year-old fan, like a grandson comforting his grandmother. And here's the thing. It wasn't just for a minute, or 5. He read to her for nearly an hour. No cameras, no rush. Just his deep voice filling the room, the rain tapping at the windows, and a woman who'd lived nearly a century, smiling like a little girl at her first dance. The staff, silently sobbing behind the door. One nurse mouthed, "This is unreal." Another resident, a retired Marine, wiped a tear and said, "I haven't felt this kind of peace in years." And when it came time for cake, Clint didn't just cut a slice. He fed the first bite to Edith himself. "Happy birthday, ma'am," he said, raising a cup of ginger ale in her honor. "You've seen more life than most of us ever will." Word spread like wildfire. One of the nurses, barely holding her phone steady through tears, snapped a photo of Clint and Edith, his hand gently resting on hers, the birthday cake in the background, and that unmistakable Eastwood squint softened by a rare tenderness. She uploaded it with a caption that simply read, "This just happened. Clint Eastwood came to visit Edith. No PR, no announcement, just pure kindness." Within an hour, it had over 300,000 likes. By evening, Clint and Edith was trending nationwide. Talk shows picked it up. News outlets called the nursing home nonstop. Everyone wanted a piece of the story, but Clint had already disappeared, back to the quiet of his Carmel ranch. He didn't stay for interviews. He didn't post about it. He just did it and left. But what he left behind, that's what mattered. Edith's room, filled with flowers from strangers. Veterans wrote letters. Someone even mailed her a replica Dirty Harry badge with a note that read, "You're tougher than Eastwood and twice as graceful." And the other residents? They started talking more, smiling more, sharing their own forgotten dreams. One woman, who hadn't spoken in weeks, whispered, "Do you think John Wayne ever made surprise visits?" As the evening light faded and visiting hours drew to a close, Clint stood up slowly, his back a little stiffer than it once was, but still unmistakably strong. He placed the novel on Edith's lap, gently closed her hands around it, and looked her in the eye. "You remind me of my mother," he said, voice low and warm. "Strong, kind, didn't take any nonsense." Edith chuckled. "I always thought you needed a bit more kindness in your films." Clint grinned. "Maybe that's why I came here, to learn a little." Then, just before he left, he leaned down, kissed her on the forehead, and whispered, "Don't you go anywhere just yet, all right?" He paused at the doorway, turned back one last time, and tipped his hat. That old-school gesture, pure Clint. And just like that, he was gone. But in his place, he left something rare, Not just a moment of joy, not just a viral headline, but dignity. For Edith, for every forgotten elder in that home, for anyone who'd ever wondered if their life story still mattered. That night, as the nurses tucked her in, Edith held that book tight to her chest and said one thing: "I can go happy now, but maybe I'll stay a while longer." By the next morning, Clint Eastwood's visit was more than just a heartwarming moment. It had become a symbol. Major news outlets ran headlines like, "Clint Eastwood's quiet act of kindness has America talking. No cameras, no ego, just Eastwood." Talk show hosts got misty-eyed recounting the visit. War veterans called into radio shows saying they hadn't felt this kind of recognition in decades. And then came the ripple effect. Donations started flooding into Willow Creek Nursing Home. Some from Eastwood fans, some from complete strangers. One anonymous donor sent $25,000 with a note. "For Edith and her generation, thank you for everything you gave us." Within weeks, the home had enough to upgrade their community room, start a new activities program, and, get this, create a mini movie theater they named the Monroe Room. Residents picked the first screening: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Edith was wheeled into the front row, her name etched on a brass plaque, and though her eyes were tired, they lit up when that iconic Ennio Morricone score began to play. And Clint? True to form, he stayed silent publicly. But each resident at Willow Creek received a signed letter a few weeks later. Simple, honest. The way he's always been. "Thank you for letting me share a moment in your story. Stay strong. Stay kind. Clint." So what do we take away from all this? Clint Eastwood didn't do it for fame. He didn't do it for clicks or headlines. He did it because, somewhere in his soul, he understood something we often forget. Fame means nothing if you forget the people who kept you going. Edith Monroe, war nurse, mother, fan, wasn't just another elderly woman in a quiet home. She was history. She was dignity. She was someone who gave her life so people like Clint could chase their dreams. And when her one wish reached him, he didn't just grant it. He honored it, personally, quietly, completely. In a world where celebrities often feel out of reach, Clint Eastwood reminded us what real legends look like. Not larger than life, but deeply human. So if this story moved you, tell someone about it. Tell them about Edith. Tell them about Clint. And remember, sometimes the biggest gestures are the quietest ones. Now, if this story warmed your heart even a little, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more people find stories like Edith's. And if you believe the world needs more moments like this, hit subscribe. We've got more real-life stories that restore your faith in humanity.